Welcome to Rauta and one of the last underground trio episodes of year 2023. This time, the reason why I'm smiling is actually I feature a band called Rauta. Rauta meaning iron in Finnish is kind of a, not that uncommon word. There are actually a couple of bands at least playing some kind of rock music or rock metal, whatever you want to call it, from Finland. And this is not the older one, so don't get confused. The others in this episode are Distressed and Gendo Ikari. So three different style of bands, three different parts of the world. Well, actually, technically speaking, two bands are from the same city, featuring actually some same members. So maybe two places, three different bands, three different styles. What gets curious here is that ranking these is not exactly super easy because there's not much variety in terms of quality, even though the overall subgenre is quite different for all of these bands. But let's start from worst to best. And actually, curiously enough, we'll start with the band called Rauta. And this looks kind of like a self-financed release, but here it says this is Running Moose Productions, a small label from Finland. And this is a very, very simple, basic, bare-boned digipack release. No booklet whatsoever, just a band photo here, 5 guys, the lineup, CD, and that's pretty much of it. Now, what may look like a metal release is in fact more like a Finnish rock and roll album. By rock and roll I don't mean the kind of a classic stuff, but not exactly hard rock either. This is not so much like leaning to heavy metal and such, but more like certain Finnish Schlager music meeting rock. That is kind of a heavy riffing and in that way also flirting with heavy metal. But more like think about bands like Lyijy Company, Timo Rauta and roughly those names, which might not be that known foreign places outside Finland. This is much like getting into the very core of Finnish music. You have the kind of a rock and roll thing going on, you have the kind of a flirt with the metal, and then you have the Schlager stuff here. Not exactly danceable, but probably the kind of a heavy rock which is not even intended for metal musicians or metal fans as such. Very simple, very bare-bones stuff and kind of a heavy, but also lacking in terms of proper vocal setup. It seems like this is a little bit hurried, easy to kind of listen, but at some points it can get a little bit annoying with the vocal performance because it's not exactly as skilled as it should be. Can recommend if you're a fan of Lyijy Company, Timo Rauta and other such bands. But if you're looking for actual proper metal release, this is not your kind of Rauta. Then we move to a grindier stuff. This is from UK, Gendo Ikari. If I'm not mistaken, this name is taken from an anime series. So that might actually remind you of certain TV programs. As such, if you feel like this name rings a bell. Much like the previous release, very bare-bone digipack, and nothing really here says other than DIY, CDR release by this rather unknown band. Now, this is a grind act which has been there quite some time, but this is their first full album, and yet still it's like MCD when it comes to length, and more like a demo-ish appearance when it comes to CDR, so very DIY kind of a thing. Now, if you're looking for some noisy grind, I mean the focus definitely being more in the experimental side of things, improvising, and less on proper songwriting. We're not talking about Napalm Death here, we're not talking about Old Carcass, we're kind of talking about messy, let's get improvising a lot of stuff kind of a thing. That means the songs are quick and done, and that is, there's certain riffs are like, hey, let's play this riff for like 10 seconds and then switch to something else. Certainly, sometimes it flirts with a little bit of death metal, but that's kind of given with a lot of grindy things. This is the grindcore, to very basic stuff. The songs are not memorable, and you hardly will remember the riffs because they're so quickly run through that you will forget them by the time it's already going to your next riff and so forth. If you're a grindcore fanatic, I strongly suggest you to check it out and figure out for yourself, but hardly for anything or anybody outside the grind fanatic stuff. Which brings us to the last of the pile. This one is Distress, Nothing for No One. Now, much like Rauta, there are other bands with the same name, so mind you, this is from Finland. And much like those two other digipacks, this is one without the booklet, so very simple, bare-boned digipack release with a CD. Now, this comes from the same CD as Rauta, featuring some of the same members, but style-wise this is a little bit different. This is more like a stoner rock meeting grunge, and as such there's quite a nice flow with all that stuff. It's kind of a heavy, it's good flow, it's not as sleepy as some of the stoner stuff, but more groovy, more grungy in that sense. Production wise quite solid, you know, heavy and all that stuff, but much like Rauta, the vocalist is the weak point here. It's almost like he's not on par with the rest of the band, and I feel like that is the weak point the band really needs to adjust and, you know, get it done, fixed, whatever. The other point where I find this a little bit flawed is that these songs could be way more catchy, way more memorable. Now it's more like a kind of a lukewarm, in the middle of the road kind of a thing, run to the mill kind of a stuff, which is like, yeah, good to listen to it. And you're like, okay, well, nothing big majorly wrong with that. But then again, that also kind of says this is not the kind of a stuff that you will go back to over and over again. It's not bad, but very much the kind of a mediocrity. If you're looking for something new in the terms of stoner and grunge and you're done with all the big names and all that stuff, maybe this is something. But it's a grunge stoner with a Finnish twist in the mix. So there you have it. Now off you go, check out the links provided in the description box and use your magical googling skill, because all this Rauta content so far is leading to their different Rauta band. So you might have to do some extra work, or maybe there will be a website which is not there yet at the moment when I'm doing this review. Three different styles indeed, none of them which are exactly wow and great and all that stuff, but you will find out for yourself if you're interested in the styles given. Let's go and see you soon with more reviews coming away.